Well, welcome everyone to Books and Bites, Book Talks by Librarians. It's us, the three J's. I am Jennifer.
Joan.
And
Julie.
there we go. We're all J's. So we've done this program many times, so thank you all for coming back. This is our summer edition where we're going to give you 15 books that we've read, we recommended, some brand new, some not so brand new. Anything that you see, you're welcome to ask for us. We'll put it on hold for you. All right, so with that, we're going to keep it to about an hour. So we're going to go through. You're welcome to ask questions as we go, whatever works for you. So with that in mind, I will get started. All right, there we go. All right, so here we have The Stolen Queen by Fiona Davis. It is a brand new book. It came out this year, a couple of months ago in 2025. It is fiction, maybe a little bit historical fiction, but primarily fiction. And it's 352 pages, so a nice, good book. So I am fascinated by ancient Egypt. I love that stuff. As you know, I think I've done other books with ancient Egypt stuff. And I love the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. They have an amazing Egyptian exhibit. The temple is it's amazing. I love it. So this book combines two big interests of mine into one, and I love it. All right. So Fiona Davis loves to take New York historical locations and create wonderful stories. This time it's the Met Museum. She's also done New York Public Library, which will actually be our book discussion in August, where she does a book related to the New York Public Library. So stay tuned for that. So this one, it is a dual timeline book. I know, we don't really like that. A lot of books are doing it these days, but it's not too confusing, I promise. One timeline takes place in 1936 Egypt and the other in 1978 in New York. It's hard to get those confused. You'll have your ducks in a row, I promise. So we're in Egypt, 1936. It's the prime time for Egyptian fever. King Tut has just been discovered, or relatively discovered, so everyone's freaking out. They're loving the stuff. And we have Charlotte. She is a young American anthropology student, and she has the opportunity to take part in a dig in the Valley of Kings. It's where all the tombs are, all the pharaohs. So she is very excited. There she discovers a burial chamber, priceless treasure, and of course she also falls in love. But tragedy strikes as it tends to do, especially in 1936, maybe right on the cusp of World War II. And Charlotte wonders if this is the result of an ancient curse for those who disturb the tombs of pharaohs. Don't touch it. Stop touching things. Vowing never to return to Egypt after this tragedy, Charlotte is now the curator of the Egyptian artifacts at the Met, so she's now working at the Met Museum. This brings us then to New York City, 1978. We have Annie. She's our second main character. And she's thrilled to be the Vogue fashion designer Deanna Breland's new personal assistant, leading up to the Met Gala. So in the 70s, we got the Met Gala coming up. Oh my gosh. But on the night of the gala, things do not go as planned when one of the museum's most valuable Egyptian pieces is stolen, right in the middle of the party. So Annie and Charlotte are caught up in the chaos, and Charlotte has to do what she has sworn never to do again, which is to go back to Egypt to help recover this artifact. So Davis, this entwines history and fiction. It's a great story. You go from, sun-drenched sands of Egypt to the bustling streets of New York, and it's like, oh my gosh. We have mostly just female protagonists here, so you've got strong leads here. And it's a very fast-paced description as you're kind of going from one place to another, following these ladies on their adventure. Perfect for lovers of historical and mystery fiction. It's more, I would say, more fiction with a little bit of mystery, and then the history as well will get you a little bit too. After reading it, I promise you'll either want to go to Egypt or you want to go to the Met. One is significantly easier to get to, so that's for you. But you want to go to one at least, I promise. Okay, so pass it along to.
Wow. Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. It's a story of a young black man in Florida in the 60s who makes what would be an insignificant mistake had he been white. That winds up going to the Nickel Academy, which sounds innocuous, but isn't. Not if you're black, and most of the residents there are black, and it's a story of Elwood and how he manages to exist in this Nickel Academy. It's really interesting, well, you're depressing, and a twist at the end. So Kim just said, oh, I know how it will end, don't. And it's well worth reading. It is a 6-year-old book, but kind of stays with you, especially nowadays when people are being picked up off the street for relatively minor offenses. But that's the Nickel Boys, close to my head. It's excellent, and writes incredibly well. And if you don't want this one, he has other books that are available and equally as captivating. Yes, sir.
Is this something like Shawshank Redemption?
I'm sorry.
Is this something like the Shawshank Redemption? Because that also is a situation where, you know, people were older adults in a prison situation, but it's it's an unsatisfactory situation, but it turns out pretty good because of friendship that they develop.
Yeah, you don't have the warden of the prison, arrested and or commit suicide at the end. It's not that kind of redemptive story, but, it's similar. It's not easy reading because you know what a terrible cesspool it is to live there, but it's important that we remember that this happened, and there are places probably still in the US where it continues.
I feel like there's a movie, right?
The Nickel Boy, I don't think so. I mean, it's possible. I tend not to go to movies that ruins the book.
Okay. Fair enough.
That is true.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Joan. Oh, Julie?
Okay, I'm going to talk about one of 2 books. I'll talk about the other one later, by Olivia Campbell. So she is a historian focusing on the history of women in science.
Talk
and-
louder.
Yeah, Julie, do you want?
Can't hear you.
Oh,
Talk
I'm
louder.
sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Okay. The title I'll be discussing, as you can see, is Sisters in Science: How 4 women physicists escaped Nazi Germany and made scientific history. Not surprisingly, this is nonfiction. Okay, let me start with a quotation by the author. She says, quote, "This book is dedicated to all the women academics murdered by the Nazis. Their absence haunts this book. The rippling impact of their loss affects us all. May their memories be a blessing and remind us of the importance of fighting fascism and unfettered hatred in all its forms." But we're focusing on 4 very talented young women, all German. 3 of the 4 are Jewish. The timing is horrific only, well, no, I shouldn't say only, in that this is the period during which Adolf Hitler rose to power. And they had to deal not only with the Jewish scientists, women, and I should mention their names: Hedwig Kohn, Lise Meitner, Hertha Sponer, and Hildegard Stücklen. They were either Jewish, of Jewish ancestry, or they harbored anti-Nazi sentiments, which would be enough to put them on the outs with the Nazi party. as much as the reader might have hoped to read primarily of the fields of study pursued by each of these women, the primary focus of necessity is that of the physical safety of each of them. And you'll see that, well, okay, let's start at home, in that they were all interested in the field of physics. Now, in 1930s Germany, women in academia were quote unquote tolerated. They were not accepted. And it was, oh boy. It was enough of a, I don't know how to describe this. It was oppressive enough not to be, or to be denied professorships or even assistant professorships by virtue of one's gender, let alone by virtue of one's religion. It's a bit of a catch-22. To escape the Third Reich meant that it was necessary to escape Germany. But in order to do that, it was necessary that one have been offered employment outside of the country. And procuring a job at a foreign university was next to impossible, really, when you stop and think about it, without, I almost want to say, divine intervention. One of the one of the four physicists who was not Jewish was able to procure a position in Scandinavia, in one of the Scandinavian countries. And the other three were really at the mercy of universities here in the United States. And it was a matter of finding a job, however menial in one's field, would help to pay the rent. It was not a good time in the world. It was not a good time for women to be in academics, but they toughed it out, and more power to them. And that's,
I have read this book. It is an extremely powerful book,
isn't it?
very powerful. You get so frustrated because these are women with great minds, and the best they can do is get a position as a lab assistant. And it's not in Germany's bad, but they can't get accepted anywhere in the world. Anti-Semitism is worldwide at this point. A lot of it undercover, but the anti-feminism is so pronounced. If you're a woman, you belong in the home, you belong in the kitchen. Where are your kids? You don't have a mind, you have a uterus, that's it.
Absolutely. Well put, a well put addition. And that is.
Thank you, Julie. All right. So back to me, so this is, everything is tuberculosis, the history and persistence of our deadliest infection, by John Green. It is a new book, it came out this year, it is nonfiction again, and it's a kind of a short read, under 200 pages. So you'll get through really quick. So he isn't lying, so many things can be tied back to tuberculosis, it's amazing. It's a disease that has been with us for thousands of years and still kills over 1 million people a year. So as much as you think it's in the history books, it is still here and it is still a problem. So tuberculosis is the deadliest infection in human history, still killing people. We have a cure. It's fully curable, we can do it. But yet it is still killing people. And this is what John Green wants us to talk about with this book. Everything is tuberculosis. Okay, so he is ultimately trying to start a conversation. He's not here to lecture you, not here to make you feel bad, or, call to action. He just wants you to know what's going on and just start a conversation with you, and then maybe you can have a conversation with other people as well. So he gives an overview of the disease, the history, its effect on our culture. You have maiden swooning, Victorian authors, coughing into a handkerchief, that kind of thing. But there's more to it as well, how it has affected our culture and our history. However, the disease becomes personal when Green tells the story of Henry. He is a young man, practically a teenager, who he met in Sierra Leone. and who is battling tuberculosis. Henry's outlook is murky because the care he needs is not available, neither through location nor through money. But it does exist, fully curable, if he was just in the right country and had the right money. Through this story, Green is able to show reader the shame that, the shame, the isolation, the hopelessness that often follows a TB diagnosis in those areas without adequate health care. For us in the US, if we somehow got tuberculosis, which is fully possible, just go to the doctor and we're all set. But for those who do not have that care, it is a stigma. It is something that is kind of like you cannot be touched. Yeah, it's practically a death sentence at times. It's heartbreaking to face the reality that the drugs to save lives are where the disease is not. We have it here, but, you know, in Africa and Middle East in some places where the disease is, the drugs are not. As I said, tuberculosis is completely curable if you have the money. The drug companies that own the drugs to cure TB, tend to keep the prices unauthentically high, as we all know, with any drug. It's not just for TB, but that's part of the reason why. But John Green is trying to put out the thesis that poverty should not mean that you die from a curable disease. Yet every year, more people die from tuberculosis than malaria, typhoid, and war combined. So it's a quick read, very thorough history of the impact of tuberculosis around the world. And he goes through some quirky stuff, but like how there's a US state that only became a state because of tuberculosis, and how the people came together to help with the detection of it. So much of us can be tied back to this one disease. And yes, this is the same guy who wrote The Fault in Our Stars and other teen books. He's definitely branched out. So it's a very powerful and important read. It's a short read, so you'll get through it in no time, I promise. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. From heavy and weighty,
Yeah.
we're going to a mystery, The Quiet Librarian by Alan Eskins. It's a story of a woman who is who assumes the persona of a stereotypical librarian. You know, the long, shaveless, drab clothing,
The cardigan.
no, just a little mousy person easily overlooked. But she's at the library one day and someone comes in looking for her by name, and she's there carefully minimized her impact on the world, so she's incredibly alarmed. And as you read, you discover that this little stereotypical librarian had been a freedom fighter in the Bosnian Serbian War and became such a powerful symbol that her compatriots had sent her to the States so that if she had been captured, the Bosnians would not have that publicity coup. So she's been hiding, and she now has her past come to get her. Very interesting. I don't know anything. I mean, I remember the stories of the Bosnian War and, you know, the bridges blown up and people killed by snipers as they tried to make their way across the river, but it was news. This brings it down to a personal level, which is really very impactful. And I highly recommend it. I don't normally say that this is something someone should read, but I think if you don't know anything about the Bosnian War and its impact on the people there, this is well worth reading if only for that aspect. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to talk about women in white coats, how the first. Powder. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Women in white coats, how the first women doctors changed the world of medicine. Also, by Olivia Campbell. In intimate detail, Olivia Campbell succeeds in introducing you to Elizabeth Blackwell, who, as you know, has a reputation, or not a reputation, but is historically the first woman doctor here in the United States in the mid 1800s or so. Let's fast forward to roughly the same time period in Great Britain, where we'll focus on another Elizabeth. This woman's name was Elizabeth Garrett, and she basically was for Great Britain what Elizabeth Blackwell was for the United States. They discuss, I should say, Olivia Campbell discusses certain hurdles that she, as Elizabeth Blackwell had done, had managed to overcome, getting into medical school as a woman, getting support from future professors, the prejudice of male students, and assumptions about women that they were feeble-minded. Which couldn't be farther from the truth, as you would see when and if you decide to venture into this title. There were, in addition to Elizabeth Garrett, Olivia focuses on a second woman who became a physician around the same time, Sophia Jex Blake, Jex hyphen Blake. Again, dealing with medical school, getting support from future professors, the prejudice of male students and the assumptions about women. It really does boggle the mind. These women, notwithstanding the prejudice and hurdles they had to overcome, were so hell-bent on becoming physicians that they were able to get in, they were to school, they were able to graduate, and they were able to start clinics of their own, which became quite successful, and really, I guess, I'm trying to think how to finish the sentence here. Basically, they debunked negative assumptions about women. So this is Women in White Coats, and this is by Olivia Campbell as well.
Another book that I have read, because 56 years ago, I embarked on the same course. So it's sort of an interesting timeline.
Yeah.
Again, what occurs in this book is the very beginning of women in medicine. What occurred with me was sort of in the midstream. And although I did not have a great deal of difficulty getting into medical, but I did have to apply to several, and I got my first choice. There was an unspoken rule at that point that no class in a medical school could have more than 10% women. So you didn't try to be just good, you had to be the best of the best to get through the door.
Mhm.
And then to succeed, you couldn't do just as well as your male counterparts, you had to be super to your male counterparts. And you look at the situation now, and more than half of applicants to medical schools are women.
Yep.
So we've come, we've come.
Sure. Okay, thank you for adding that.
All right. All right, let's go to fun. All right, here we got Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. It came out last year, 2024. Fiction thriller, I would say, and about 256 pages. So 250 pages, let's say that. All right. I have to admit, I just picked this book up because of the cover. It looks like a very, beat up VHS tape. I love it. It's such cool cover. I'm a 90s kid, so the VHS tape premise just sets off the nostalgia in me. all those days in Blockbuster or trying to shove it in, you have to rewind it. Anyway, so this book is full of family drama. It is so just drama. It has 3 estranged siblings, a missing father, and then of course, what brings the story to an open is a dead mother. So, the 3 siblings, Beth, Nicole, and Michael, all have to reunite at their childhood home after the death of their mother. As they go through her belongings, nitpicking at each other, as it, siblings tend to do, they find a box of home videos on VHS tapes. So wonderful, let's play some, let's look through the memories of when the family was happy, when everyone was whole and together. But one of these videotapes shows something rather disturbing. It is their father, now years missing, their father, he's got blood on his clothes, his face is pale white, and he is standing over a dead body. In the video, the parents, the mother and the father, make a pact to hide the body and to never speak of this again. So, of course, the kids, they're just shocked, they want answers, their father's missing, their mother just died, they have no one to, ask, what the heck is this? What happened all these years ago? Did one or both of their parents kill somebody by accident, on purpose? Whose body were they talking about? There's this, teenage girl who went missing all those years ago. Was it this teenage girl? What should they do? Was it the police? Keep it secret? What other secrets did their parents have? All these questions, and they're arguing, and it's ridiculous. Oh my god, it's amazing. So this book is a fast and ready to read. Like the siblings, you just want to keep turning those pages to find those answers. Lots of drama, the tension, the testy exchanges. The tea was very hot in this family drama. So the kids delve deeper into the mother's belongings, trying to figure out what happened. They start asking around, just going through that, and just to figure out what happened to their father, what's going on with this body, is there any more bodies? There's in the title, that kind of thing. And they may not want the answers that they're going to get. I can easily see this turning into a movie, because it's just so much. Would not be surprised if it gets turned into one. It's a very fun, dramatic thriller. It feels like a good summer read, just,
Mayhem.
yes, exactly. All right, okay.
Yeah, the events you say occurred in 1999. Does it start out though in the present? So basically it's a flashback of what is going on, or is it close to 1999?
It starts in the present, and then as they, the premise is they put in a videotape and you're flashed back into 1994, and they're at a carnival, or they're at some recital. And then finally they put in a tape of the body in question. That's how you get your flashbacks, but your majority in the present besides those. Thank you.
Definitely not your type of book.
Yeah.
I will never, if somebody says,
I
I'll
like-
give you $100.
I love it.
If you, did Jen pick this book? I would say, absolutely. Yes, it's Joan.
Oh, God. Love it. All right, speaking of Joan,
Okay, this is so, I'm like,
there we go, you see, we're branching out.
yeah. How many students might fight with Harvard to reclaim my legacy by tomorrow linear? So it came out this year. She is, I didn't know this till I got halfway through it. She is a probation officer in Norwich.
Oh,
She and her family have an horrible history, which is well documented, of being descended from this Papa Renty of the Congo. It turns out that the Peabody Museum at Harvard has, I'm gonna mess this up, daguerreotypes, photos of Papa Renty and his daughter and several other people. And she goes, tomorrow goes to Harvard and wants to see them. Oh, sorry, no, can't do that. Well, she then goes back into her family and enlists all of her relatives to do genealogical survey, and they find they're able to detail every single generation from her to this Papa Reggie. And she goes to Harvard again, says, I'd like to see it. I think they belong to me. And of course, Harvard, no, poo, no, sorry. She brings suit in the courts. And I'm not gonna tell you the rest. There was an article in the New York Times not so long ago that decided the issue, and yeah, they lost. They had to give up the daguerreotypes, and she didn't receive them herself, but she had a choice of where they should go, and she now has access to them without fighting with the Peabody or with Harvard. So, because they said, "Oh, we'll get back to you," and of course, no, but that was so interesting. Yeah,
That was recently, right? Recently?
yes.
Very recent.
Yes, like in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
The decision came
Yeah.
down. I have the article. That one needs to see it. They have to prove this one.
This woman was from Norwich, Connecticut.
Norwich, Connecticut,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. Which. Who can trace their lineage back that far?
Wow.
Especially a slave family.
That's amazing.
That's stunning. Anyway.
Neat. All right, passing it back to Julie.
Okay, I'm still in the realm of science, which is the history of women and the history of science for me is an area that I like to focus on. And when a book comes out, such as The Elements of Marie Curie, it's definitely gonna be on the list. The full title of this tome is The Elements of Marie Curie, How the Glow of Radium Lit a Path for Women in Science. The author is Dava Sobel. This is a 2024 release. I feel she should be lauded, the author should be lauded, as the author of this examination of Curie's life. She makes it very understandable, even for people who are not trained in the sciences. Let me see, I'm sorry. Yes, there's a very comfortable interplay between Marie's private life and her professional work. She and her husband Pierre had created an institute for the study of radium, and very, very tragically and sadly, Pierre was killed in an accident on the street. He was, I believe, run over by a horse and carriage. Then you find Marie with 2 children and an institute. And Sobel blends and demonstrates Marie's ability to not juggle her private life and her personal life, but to kind of meld the two in a very harmonious way. See what else I can share with you. The effects of radium on the human body is something that was not well known at that time. And only with the passage of time would it make itself known, not only on Marie, but other members of her professional staff. If you look at a listing in the book, back towards the end of the book, you'll see how many complications arose from the exposure. which is probably the last thing that Marie ever would have thought. Again, she was a humanist, and yet the very act of pursuing her science was really a compromise the health of many people. So this is, as I said, a very empathetic presentation. She appears to have been a wonderful parent, very supportive of her daughters. At least one of her two daughters did pursue the science that her mother had chosen. And I would definitely recommend this. The Elements of Marie Curie of the Glow of Radium, a path for women in science.
Like you, I'm interested in women and science and medicine, so I read this one too. And again, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. I think two things that I took away from the book, was the relationship that she had with her husband was just amazing. But unfortunately, she was one of the most brilliant, not just women, but people who have ever populated this planet. Absolutely, beyond genius. So a lot of the research that was done under her auspices. But she couldn't publish under her own name. She had to publish under her husband's name. So once her husband died, whoops, she can't publish. So she has a terrible time trying to get any of her research out. The other thing that struck me was the fact, if you look at the people that she brought into her lab to nurture, 90% of them were female and were brilliant women in science. But without her, they would never have gone anywhere. So she realized that women did have brains, they really did, and they could use them, and she was gonna nurture that. Her second daughter was a brilliant musician.
I'm gonna say, I have to admit, I haven't read this particular book, but from my knowledge about Marie Curie, she's a fascinating person because, first of all, there are very few people, as you know, who win Nobel Prizes, but there are even fewer who've won two.
I don't think they're right into.
And she won one in physics and one in chemistry, that's my understanding.
Yes.
Also, and I may be wrong about this, she was rejected by the French Academy of Sciences at the time. Right, but I also think, I believe she also was Polish, and I think there was a
Yes,
little bit
right.
of Western European bias against Eastern Europeans as part of that decision. And third thing is, one of her daughters, I believe, won a Nobel Prize herself.
Yeah.
So it passed on down through the family. So again, just an incredible woman and an incredible family too.
Thank you for that.
Nice. All right, back to me. All right, so here we have Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. Came out last year in 2024. Fiction thriller, I would say, and it's a good chunk book, over 350 pages, so. It takes you some time to get through. So this is my fourth Riley Sager novel, and I still love his style of writing. I know, he keeps putting them out, so I have to read them. This book came out last year, obviously, so I am actually a little bit behind, but I'm eagerly awaiting his, newest book. It came out, earlier this month. And that is Murder and Revenge on a Train. Sign me up. I think it's With a Vengeance. We actually think we have a rapid read over there. I'm on hold for the regular copy. All right, anyway. So we are back in the 90s. I was on the 90s kick this time. I don't know what happened. Reliving my childhood. So the story opens in 1994. We have 10-year-old Ethan and his best friend Billy. They're having a sleepover in a tent in Ethan's backyard. It's a super safe neighborhood. It's a cul-de-sac. They do this all the time. It's the 90s. What could go wrong? Well, what starts as an innocent adventure and, at night takes a dark turn when Ethan wakes up the next morning alone. Their tent was slashed in the dead of the night, and Billy has vanished without a trace. So the haunting mystery of Billy's disappearance lingers for 3 decades, casting a shadow of doubt, of guilt over Ethan's life. What happened to Billy? How could Ethan have slept through the whole thing and not been woken up, not heard anything? Why can't he remember anything? He just went to sleep, he woke up, and his life had changed forever. So we're fast forward to the present day, about 30 years later. Ethan finds himself back in his hometown, helping out his parents, watching over the house, that kind of thing. And just grappling with the ghosts of the past. You know, he has to look outside into his backyard and just remember what happened, or not remember what happened, or just be wondering. So he's settling into his childhood home, and strange and unsettling occurrences begin to unfold. Is he just maybe having insomnia and just maybe, his mind is a little out there, or is something actually happening? He's not quite sure. So as he looks out into his backyard in the middle of the night, he is plagued with the possibility that there's something out there, even how strange that might be. He just has this feeling. Is it Billy somehow come back? Where has he been all this time? Or is it something far more sinister? Riley Sager is great with the crafting a narrative that is gripping, a little bit, tenseness of it all, very atmospheric, with elements of mystery, suspense, and a touch of the paranormal. Just a touch. You'll even notice it. Based in reality, I promise you. But people are weird. Anyway, so it'll definitely keep you on the edge of your seat. It's a very summer book because the kid just appears in the middle of summer, and you just get that you got these kids, they're home from school, they're just out in the backyard in the neighborhood. It's the middle of summer and there's no parents' permission. But anyway, so highly recommend for anyone who's looking for a suspenseful atmospheric mystery. And he's a great writer. I started with The Only One Left. That's the first one I've read of his. And I've just been gradually going through his back catalog and keeping up with what he's currently doing. He's still got it. Go.
Okay, the last report of the miracles at Little No Horse, which is, Little No Horse is in fact an Ojibwe reservation in northern Minnesota by Louise Fordridge. I went way back, 2001.
Whoa.
But Louise is in fact a member of the Ojibwe tribe. All of her books take place in and around the Ojibwe reservations, life, culture. And this is a great book because it contrasts Roman Catholicism with the Ojibwe. I don't want to say pagan religion, but they're more naturalists. And the contrast between let's tell it like it is, and is this really something we need to discuss? I mean, we sort of know what's going on. We don't really need to articulate it. If you're happy, that's fine. It's very interesting, and I love the book. I found it a little tough sometimes because I'm not Catholic, so I missed a lot of the overarching, because the main character is Father Damien, not who believe Father Damien is. And how to make leaps, I'm unaccustomed to making, but it's really interesting and very illuminating about the Ojibwe way of life.
Are they still there?
The Ojibwe, yeah. Northern Minnesota. Yeah. Yeah, they're still there. They're still the ones there.
Thank you, Jill. All right, Julie.
We're back to medicine, Julie.
Oh, yeah. Johnson and Johnson is a name everybody is familiar with. I remember being a kid at summer camp and using the Johnson and Johnson baby powder after General Swim. Okay, I was 7 years old, 8 years old at the most. And my memory, and this was, the memory itself was actually brought to the fore by this particular book, No More Tears, The Dark Secrets of Johnson and Johnson. Gardner Harris has done a phenomenal job. How he managed to obtain some of this information is a mystery to me, and a great credit to him as a journalist. Um. I mean, even the use of a Band-Aid now, Johnson and Johnson Band-Aid. I mean, it's. I feel betrayed by this company. That's the best way I can put it. When I was done reading this book, I felt betrayed. Because despite this caring PR image that's been created throughout, what, 50+ years, easily, 60+ years, if not more. They're really just in it for the money. And it's, okay, so they're a business. I mean, their purpose is to earn money. And that's what their shareholders are prompted to invest in, lucrative possibilities. But at what price? At what price you hear, I mean, and they talk in the book about this, about, drugs that are used in trials where, there's hidden information. It's not fully disclosed even to the individuals who are participating in the studies themselves. They're just in it for the money. I feel betrayed. I truly, truly do. I truly do. And kudos again to Gardner Harris. He has just done a phenomenal job. This company's reputation will never be healed, even with the use of a Band-Aid.
I'm not throwing my own Band-Aids out.
Okay. That's the only one. Alright, so we'll go back to those and I'll close it. I know, I'll close it.
Not fiction here. Number 2. I seek a kind person. My father, 7 children, and the adverts that helped them escape the Holocaust. 2024. The Manchester Guardian in Britain. In the 30s. Were accepting advertisements from families in Germany who wanted to have their children go to Britain as either an apprentice or foster child or a nanny. And this is the story. It's written by the son of one of the men who placed an advertisement, and he finds 7 kids whose families placed these advertisements in the Guardian. And very interesting, because so much of who was saved is almost accidental. There was so little enthusiasm for accepting children in Britain. And in many ways, it was kind of like the orphan train that went out west. You kind of took what you got, you really had no choice. And it wasn't a good fit. That was just too bad you were there. But the parents sent off their children, hoping like mad that they would at least survive. And I don't know if you all remember are familiar with the kinder transports where children were sent off in trains, and that was organized. This predated the kinder transports, and there were children who would otherwise never have been allowed to go out. Very interesting, a little depressing, because some people never found people in Britain to take their children, right? It's another hit or miss. You were lucky or you were not. So, but important to know about.
Alright, back to you, Julie. Last one
Yeah.
for you.
Okay. This is The Last Secret Agent. My life as a spy behind Nazi lines. by Pippa Latour. Now,
Ladder.
okay,
Right.
Pippa Latour is the subject of this book. She was 102 years old when she passed, when she died. So, the author of the book, quite sadly, didn't have an opportunity to actually share her story in the written form with her, but this is a story of her life. She was, French. I'm sorry, excuse me, I take it back. She was a Brit who, was parachuted into hostile territory in France when she was in her 20s. The purpose of her mission, and this was an assigned mission, was to, she was basically a set of eyes and ears for Allied forces, and she was there under the guise of being the granddaughter of an elderly couple who lived in occupied France, and she parachuted in alone, which I don't know how she had the nerve to do that, but she did, and her I guess cover was that she was the granddaughter of a couple, and she needed to sell soap, bars of soap, which accounted for her mobility in the area in order to raise some living money for this couple, who in fact were not really her grandparents. She was interrogated by Nazi forces. She was, at one point, she was raped. It was horrible, it was hostile, it was a nightmare. She did manage to meet some other souls with whom she formed a friendship. And then ultimately was able to get out in time before her true identity was revealed. I obviously recommend it. This is The Last Secret Agent: My Life as a Spy Behind Nazi Lines.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you say she was Swiss?
No, she was,
Wasn't she English?
no, she was British.
She was
Oh,
English.
British.
And there's a lot of books written right about this time about Woman of No Importance, The Lost Girls of Paris.
Yeah.
They're all very similar to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good.
Did she just recently pass away?
Well, the book itself was released in 2024. She passed, I'd say, within a year before it went to print, which is sad.
Yeah.
But she knew the book was being written clearly.
I think I read about it in the New York Times or something,
I'm not surprised.
so.
Alright. Great, so this is our last one from me. Here we got The Pretender by Joe Harkin. It came out this year. It is fiction, historical fiction for sure. 500 pages. I saved the best and the longest for last. We're not in the 90s, we're in 15th century England, totally different. So if you're looking for a long historical fiction book to sweep you away, this is it. It is very well researched history in this book. How much you absorb is totally up to you, because there's a lot, but you don't necessarily need to like really memorize all this history to enjoy the book, to enjoy the main character and all the struggles. So how much you take in is totally up to you. So if the historical elements don't grab you, the characters certainly will. We are in 15th century England, so the language that the author has speaking is close enough to modern, it will not be uncomfortable, I promise you. Instead, you have great period vocabulary, you have great insults, like Shakespearean insults, it's great, you're gonna add that to your repertoire. Lots of humor, some straightforward, some a little crude, and some kind of heartbreaking, because this is a totally different time period where things happen and there's no recourse. You got monarchy and war and just, it's not, the time period itself is a very dangerous time period. Alright, so, the novel begins with Richard III's tragic death in battle, and then Henry VI's ascent to the throne. Don't worry about that unless you want it. Instead, we're gonna focus on our main character, the pretender in question here. He goes through a couple of name changes, throughout the book based on what the adults and the authority in charge tell him who he is. But I'm gonna stay with Lambert Simnel, so Lambert, cause that's the one recognized by history. This is all kind of based on a true story on footnotes found through historical documents, where there was a boy, a young adult who was thought to be the heir to the throne around that time. And supposedly, so Lambert was raised on a farm. Regular peasant boy, feeding the chickens, the goats, all that kind of stuff. And then one day he's handed over by the man he thought was his father to some nobles. These nobles tell him he is the real heir to the throne. He was tucked away into peasantry at birth to protect him from all the machinations of, usurps, the crown, everything like that, civil war, it's England, you know how they are. So after all of this, neither he or the reader is ever really sure about the truth. Is he royalty? Is he just a decoy for these fashionable usurpers? History labels him as a fake in the footnote, but history is written by the victors. So, the author tells a kind of a different story, who's to say? So kind of historical fiction, kind of based on true story, and we'll go from there. So you get to see this young boy, Simnel, just emerge from unsophistication to an innocent boy to a young adult, all of a sudden told he's nobility, learning stuff, dealing with court, what is going on? And you transform from just an innocent boy to honestly a kind of spy master who's forced to survive in English courts. So it's a really great tale. And there is a bit of a star-crossed love story with a feisty Irish noble girl named Joan. Oh my God, you're just Joan. It's a young romance, with yearning and tension, and as he swears to bring the head of her enemies to her, just so they can finally be safe together, because they're honestly both not safe where they are. So there are so many pages, so much plot is in it, but it's just so good. You got your main character going from peasant to rebel to earl to king to spy master. You just wear so many faces and you just get dragged along with his story. You just won't be able to put it down. If you like historical fiction, this is a book for you. It will be on my best books of 2025, I know that much. Just really good. That's cool. Gotta deal with the 500 pages. Yeah.
This particular book.
It would recommend, like, I like historical fiction. Honestly, this is maybe a little more historical than I'm used to, but I did read Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Anyone remembers Hamnet? And so when I was kind of browsing things, I saw, well, if you like Hamnet, try this.
Okay.
And I did, and I tried it, and I just, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's really
Okay.
good. Yeah. So, wonderful. So, that brings us to our hour. That's all of our
Thank you.
books. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, and you should join our summer reading program if you haven't already. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.